is a workout. This is a workout. This is why tile guys charge so much, because there's so much energy that we have to do this type of work. So this is basically what my mortar consistency is about. It's wetter than a dry pack, but it's not wet enough to really, you know, like no harm, no foul on it. That's kind of what I want. That makes it easier to manipulate, makes it easier to pack down, and then I just spread it around. I don't know if I'm going to do a video on how to do this. This is 6 bags because this is an extra large shower pan. I may scoop some out at some point. You're going to notice that I put a couple of lines on the shower pan liner. This isn't my perimeter. This is a level mark, right? So there's a lot of people who, I might do a little tutorial. And I'm just kind of rough doing this. I would use the little end of a 2x4 to pack it down. But basically you're going up to the line all the way around the perimeter. We call this a perimeter screed, and you would pack it down, obviously. So you would do that all 4 sides around so that you know your level on there. And then in the center, you would just put the rest of your mortar, and then you would kind of screed off of there down to a slope to your drain. That is called a perimeter screed. I don't generally do that. In fact, I don't generally draw a line, but I'm doing it for video purposes, so that you kind of understand. What I'm doing with my hands right off the bat is I'm pushing this up against the sides, all 4 sides. I'm pushing it. I'm getting it as almost perfect as I can to start with, and then I start playing with it. And it takes roughly, I don't know, I've never really timed it. It could take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, hour and a half. But this is all I do to start with. I just push it around to where I want it. Also, another little trick. I don't know if you know, DIYers. Another little trick is you can put some blocking on all 4 sides. Actually, you're going to need 8 of these pieces of blocking, and that's going to let you know where your level is at. So even if you don't have a laser level, all your blocking is the same size, and you push all your mortar up against that blocking, and then when you're finished, you can take it out, and then later on when it dries up, you can fill in that gap. So that's another way to make it happen, but that's not how I do it. So I'm going to take the first few minutes to kind of push it around and get it kind of more or less where I want it, and then I may come back on camera and show the rest of the process. Alright, once I get the mortar inside of the pan area, I push it around with my hand the best I can to kind of even out all the corners and the sides and all that stuff. This pan happens to be an extra large. I think it's 6x7, 6x6, and it took all of 6 bags with just a little tiny bit left over. But you don't know that until, you know, you start screeding, packing it down and screeding it and all that stuff. So this is a looks like a 24-minute clip, and I'm going to do as much commentary as I possibly can, but I'm not going to be talking about the pan the whole time. I'm going to be giving little tips and tricks and talking about my subjective take on doing a mortar pan. First of all, you see the drain there. That's an OD drain. That is a good, solid cast iron type of drain. Well, not cast iron. It's actually, what is it called? Metal. It's not metal. The real cheap ones that are like $12 at Home Depot with the big grate on it and all that stuff is not what I prefer. I prefer this one. It's much heavier. It costs about $28, something like that. I think the price has gone down to about $24. But that's the best drain that you can get. I'm not into the newer fads with flow effects and all that stuff. I think it's kind of silly. It does help to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, you're waterproofing the whole surface anyway. So this flow effects idea came along when I started doing sealed system many years ago, about 12, maybe 14 years ago. And flow effects came around maybe about 8 years ago. So they devised a product to do what I've been doing already, a sealed system. Anyway, moving on, Now that I have all the mortar kind of pushed around with my hand the best I can, is when I start tamping it down. Tamping it down means I'm hitting it hard. There are other YouTubers who talk about water in, water out system, which we're not doing anymore. And what I started with this video on the sand mixture and all that stuff, and not to hit it hard because you want water to flow through it, is their take on it. I'm not about that. As dense and as hard a material as you can get at the end of the day is what we're looking for. So yes, I'm hitting it really, really hard with my trowel. All the different tools that I'm going to be using, when I say tools, that pieces of 1x, and you know, my trowel and my 9-inch. There's a lot of different tools that are meant for different material. Sheetrock material specifically, I have a bunch of tools for that, 9-inch blade and 12-inch blade and all this other stuff that I use. So it really doesn't matter what you use at the end of the day. See that level? That's right on point without even me throwing the level on there yet until I start, you know, hitting it. So I have a pretty level eye, and for the most part, all 4 of my sides are relatively level, and my slope is relatively where I want it. See, on all 4 of those sides, in the corners is where you're trying to get the flow down to the drain, the flow of water, as it were. And then I'm just throwing on a little extra mud in the little areas where I see discrepancies and stuff like that. But I'm also using different tools to kind of screed out the excess mortar. And you're going to see, as I talked about, the 1x's and the level here and all that stuff, you know, just hitting all 4 sides around and in the corners, trying to get everything to a slope that I want it. And in this particular case, I'm going to be bringing my tile all the way up to the edge of the drain because it's a square drain. Normally I do little taper cuts on a round drain because I just like the tile that's around the drain setting up a tad bit higher than the drain edge itself. So I do taper cuts so there's positive water flow going down to the drain. I can't do that with a square drain. So now my tile will be flush with that drain. And here I'm just using my trowel to, again, same thing. I think the whole process, by the time I mixed all the mortar and threw it in the pan, I think the whole process takes me about 30 minutes or so. It doesn't take a long time, but because I'm experienced at doing this over and over and over again, it's just a little easier for me. And pardon all the you're gonna see. So I've got the camera on my head. I've got a head strap with my GoPro on the camera, and so every time I start hitting the pan with my trowel, you're gonna start seeing all that shaky stuff going on because my head is shaking. And see that? It's just vibrating. So disregard that. I know it's not the best view in the world, but I don't have a cameraman. And so again, I'm just trying to get, when you put a straight edge, say from corner to drain, you want your mortar to hit all of that straight edge. So what I'm trying to do here is get to the point where there's no dips or humps or anything going on. And it's just a kind of time-consuming process. You're taking off the excess mortar, and then at the same time, you're throwing a level on all the sides that you're working on. And you're fine-tuning is what you're doing. As you saw, my level was pretty much already level to begin with. You know, my bubble was level already, but there's a high spot there, so I'm taking it off. Then I put my level back on it, check it again. Still a little bit of high spot, so I'm taking some more off. Then I throw my level back on it, and I double check, triple check, quadruple check as many times as I can to get that as level as possible. And I think in the very beginning of this video you saw me use a Sharpie, and so I marked a line with my Sharpie all the way around, which I don't normally do. Honestly, I only did that for the video because I basically know where my level is going to be anyway. I know what my thickness of my mortar at my perimeter is going to be going down to the drain. So there's no reason for me to do the Sharpie. But as I said before, if you wanted to use screed board, not screed boards, if you wanted to use blocking or something in the corners or something around the perimeter
to know where your mortar ends and just go up to that level and throw your level on those pieces that you put in there. If I explain that right, then by all means. But just know that when you're done, you got to pull all that stuff out and then fill in the voids with your mortar. Another thing too, and I think I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's a lot of pushback that I do on other people's videos, and I've seen it time and time and again where people are throwing mortar. They're opening their bag of mortar and throwing it in a big hefty bag and throwing some water in there and rolling it around in their driveway or wherever, and they're trying to mix it as good as they can. I just firmly believe you're not going to get as good of a mixture doing it that way as you're going to with just a trough, the trough that I use, and a hoe. It just makes it more consistent. We're not having you're not having patches of dry mortar mixed in with your wet mortar. And again, using a wetter mortar the way that I do makes it compact a lot easier. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just compacting it. And what I explained on the beginning of the video, where you don't compact it, where you do quote unquote a dry pack, is the premise, the idea that you're doing a water in, water out system. So arguably, water would filter through a dry pack, meaning it's not as dense and it's not packed down the way that I'm packing it. Water would filter through there a lot easier than if it were really dense and hard material. And that's the whole idea of a dry pack. Am I repeating this? I'm repeating this process again. Okay, so I'm going to end this early. 24 minutes is going to now be hyphenated. So I went on a loop with this video. Sorry about that. Again, prefacing what I said earlier about how many emails. I get emails and phone calls and texts probably in the range of about 3 or 4 a year. So every couple, 2 or 3 months, somebody's reaching out to me talking about how they did their mortar bed, and the next day they had like this sandy, gritty feeling, and there was dust on top of it, and they shot backed it out, and or it cracked the next day. Little tiny cracks. I don't know how they managed to do that, but the dry pack notion, the whole idea of a dry pack, what I said earlier about how water would get through a lot easier with a dry pack, is irrelevant. We're doing a sealed system, meaning the whole top of this mortar bed is going to be waterproofed. Therefore, it makes the pre-slope 100,000%, if that's a word, 100,000% irrelevant. There's absolutely 100,000% no reason to do a pre-slope, first of all. Second of all your mortar is a slope for your tile at the surface. That's all it's for. If you want to do a tile ready pan, if you want to do, it really doesn't matter if you want to do a foam pan, if you want to do a mortar pan. None of this matters insofar as the science of it goes. All the end of the result is you're trying to get a slope for your tile, so that when you take a shower, all your water trickles down your tile and into your drain. That's the whole purpose of doing this anyway. And yes, this is kind of old-fashioned and this is old school, and there's a lot of other products out now, but it's force of habit. I've been doing it for over 20 years, and it's just what I do. I'm not going to be on board anytime soon with tile-ready pans and stuff like that. I don't know. Something's wrong with being able to put all your materials in both of your arms and go up your stairs, and everything you have for a shower pan, weighs 10 pounds. I'm just not up with it. Another little trick there too, you saw I took a 2x4. I didn't have a 2x6, or I would have preferred that. But if you have an extra large pan like that, that's how I kind of bridge the gap, literally, where I can get into the back area without getting into the mortar pan and having my knees in it and all that stuff. So anyway, I'm going to end the video because apparently we're on a loop here. Sorry about that, folks. I'm going to also place a video right after this about this guy. I can't remember his name, Mike something or another. I ran across his videos earlier this year, and I did some critiques on the way he does a shower. And he's not a shower builder per se, but he's a DIY home repair type of guy who has almost 2 million subscribers. And the video that I'm going to show at the end of this is him doing his mortar pan with a very, very soupy mortar mix, which I never suggest. There's a sweet spot between a dry pack and something that's way too soupy. And this guy came up with something way too soupy. So if you ever run across his video or any video the way that he does it, please do not do it that way. Again, a wetter material is much better than a drier material. And there's no harm, no foul having too much water. But this guy, that he even posted that video is a bit of an embarrassment to the trade. So I'm going to play that video right now.
So I just removed a little material with my trowel. Oh man, the front needs to come up a little bit now. So we'll put a little bit back in. We are now level. Yep, that's perfect. We just need to double check the front. And that's perfect. You can tell I've got a little too much water in my mix because it's standing on the top, but it's still holding its shape perfect, which is the most important thing. I didn't get the best footage during the second stage of the slope just because my body was in the way of the camera quite a bit. And once the water had settled towards the drain, I used a towel to wipe it all up before smoothing everything out for a final time. I won't lie, I'm bummed about adding too much water, but we'll check back tomorrow and see how it looks. Oh, check that out. Even though it took a few extra hours for the water to wick away from our mortar bed, it looks great. Everything is sloping towards the drain, but all of our perimeter edges are super level.
All right, 30 minutes, not quite 30 minutes later, it is done. This is kind of what you want it to look like at the end. I can't get a real good close-up. You don't want any pits. I kind of dinged over here. The good thing about dings is you can put a little bit more mortar in the ding and just kind of with a wet taping knife make it look like it never happened. Speaking of that, so I wetted down my trowel. My trowel was getting build up mortar on it, so I wetted it down. And when I wetted it down, I was able to kind of screed the top of this. So you're going to see the surface a little bit more wet, but you're also going to see it smoother. And if you wanted to, if looks matters, which arguably some people are really into the looks of a mortar pan, you could do a couple more dings. If looks matter, you could wet your trowel and you can make everything look just like that if you want to. But it's practical and not aesthetic, even though us Tyler guys are very aesthetic. The drain, before it sets up, right, before your mortar sets up, you want it level both directions. So it is level both directions. And I guess I'm gonna get a comment, why didn't you tape the top of your drain? Because I'm not that sloppy that I'm gonna get that much mortar inside of it. The grate comes off later on when I'm done with the tiling process and all that stuff. I always unscrew the grate, I clean on the inside, I clean the grate and all that stuff. If you want to tape it, okay. There's a lot of stuff that people do that I'm not really into because it's just never really dawned on me. You know, when you're not sloppy, you don't have to worry about some of those things. I almost went through every bit of 6 bags on this pan. I mean, literally, I have this left over, minuscule amount left over. So yeah, quite a bit. Oh, which reminds me, how many bags of mortar should I buy, Bob? I get that question a lot. On a typical 3x5 or thereabouts, 32-inch tub to shower conversion, you're going to need 4 bags. If you think you need 4, get 5, because it's always better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. If you think you need 3, get 4. Like, just double up on what you, not double up, get an extra bag. I thought I would have an extra bag. You know, I figured 5 bags, but I got 6, and 6 is sure what I needed. Oh, another thing too, last thing before I sign off here. I did a measurement because at the very beginning of the video I talked about how there's no definitive measurement on how much water per bag. And so I said 4 spongefuls. And so what I did is I did a measurement in this bucket, this Home Depot bucket. And so it's right at 3.5 liters, which would equate to, what is that, 5 pints? I don't know why they don't have half gallon. Anyway, 5 pints of water, or 2.5 liters, is what I use per bag. More or less. Not too much less. You still want to be able to, you know, to literally do with your mortar what you want it to do. And sorry about all the shaking when I was pounding all of that and compacting it and all that stuff. I know there was a lot of shaking with the camera. Sorry about that. I had the head strap on, so that could not be avoided. So before the end of the day, because I have so much time, this only took an hour, a little less than an hour. I just do a little touch-up stuff. If I see a little ding somewhere like there, there's no reason to do that. Literally no reason. Just because I have the time to kill. Because this is going to set up over the weekend and be ready for the wallboard come Monday. So yeah, then I do my cleanup. Anyway, that's it. Hope that helped somebody, and I hope it helped the homeowners who get the dusty stuff on their pan. We get so focused on stupid stuff here. Doesn't even matter. And then tile's gonna cover. Tile's gonna cover the whole surface. You know, but whatever. Anyway, I'm out.
If you're going to call me for advice, please donate $50 for 30 minutes. My link to my PayPal and my Patreon account is down below. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get immediate notifications as soon as I post videos. And thank you very much for your support.